the Audio Sports Weekly Vodcast. I'm Bobby Mendez alongside Hailey Wilson, Coach Robert Villafranca. And in today's episode, 28 5A Volleyball has announced its all-district teams. Girls and boys basketball are tournament hooping. We have shout-outs and we have a web gem to share. But before we get into all that, let's begin this vodcast with 12 5A football. And guys, it was a tough week for 12 5A, and as great as that district was, and as great as those teams are in this district, it's a great region.
It gives you a glimpse at just how tough Region 3 is. Remember that Harlandale and McCullum competing in 12 5A this year. That was Region 3, not Region 4, and as you alluded to, that Bobby, the 12 5A eliminated in the first round of the playoffs, and man, with the tough teams that we saw all year long, I'm not sure that anybody had that on their bingo card. But let's start with this one. Vets Memorial, the fourth place team for 12 5A, facing the first place team from 11 5A D1, Pflugerville Weiss. Weiss took that game 63-28. This one was never close. Weiss was ranked 10th. They're still ranked 10th among 5A teams in Texas. Led 49-7 at halftime. The senior quarterback, Dior Bradfield, threw for 382 yards on a 15 for 23 night, 8 touchdown passes. That is an Al Bundy night. The Wolves rush attack added another 245 yards for 635 yards of total offense for Weiss. So that sets up an area game between number 10 Weiss and number 9 Manville in the area round. They are the two highest ranked teams left in that bracket.
Yeah, and moving on to another, yet again, kind of another shocking game. Seguin lost to Manor 35-14, again in that first by-district round. Manor running back Quentin Joyny just really crushed it, ran for over 260 yards with 19 carries, 3 touchdowns just on his own, and Seguin just couldn't handle the firepower. So Matadors did see some standout performances from Adrian Gutierrez, who had a great defensive interception, and linebacker Alan Martinez, who also, again, had a good solid defensive interception late in the third quarter. But even though they lost, Seguin head coach Craig Daly, this was his first winning season as a head coach, and they also were the first team in history, in Matador history, to ever secure 4 consecutive playoff berths, right? So while it was a little bit of a disappointing end to the season, I think there's a lot of upside and a lot of good to look forward to for the Matadors, and looking forward to next fall when we can kind of see what they do and how they rebound from this season.
And in the third game last weekend, second place Buda Johnson, second place in 12 5A, faced third place Cedar Park. And Buda Johnson was another one of those teams that went deep into the season undefeated. They didn't lose a game until they lost to undefeated Dripping Springs in week 8. Cedar Park of 11 5A took that game 42-36. Cedar Park is ranked 20th in the state of Texas among 5A schools. They're going to meet Angleton, ranked 31 in the area round. Angleton defeated Friendswood in the by-district round. This will be a good one as the games just naturally get better with every level on a tournament ladder. And then finally, we have the 4 versus 1. Georgetown, fourth place in 11 5A, faced the number 1 team from 12 5A, Dripping Springs. And boy, I'm not sure how many people had this on their bingo card, but Georgetown beat Dripping Springs 63-56. Dripping Springs was held scoreless for the first quarter and was never able to bounce back from that slow start. The Tigers were one of 3 5A D1 district champions to bow out of the playoffs in the first round. Georgetown is the lowest ranking team left in the Region 3 bracket, and they will face Fort Bend Hightower in the area round. Again, 63-56. That is 119 points, and folks, that did not include an overtime period. So That's a lot of football. Georgetown will advance. Dripping Springs 10-0 going into the playoffs, eliminated in the by-district round.
Yeah, those two last two games that you mentioned, very competitive between those two. So we had the good fortune, of course. The reason why we're mentioning these is because we had the good fortune of covering 12-5A, and even again talking about this 12-5A district, there are some teams. Of course, it didn't make the playoffs, but are pretty stacked with athletes. I think I was scrolling down my timeline, and I see that Drew Barry, a quarterback of Canyon, has received an offer from Hardin Simmons. So this just kind of tells you what kind of district that was in that we covered. So
and
great
Bobby,
to be a
just
part
to
of that.
underscore your point, New Braunfels Canyon was not a playoff qualifier, and they've got an athlete. They've got athletes like that on their squad. So, oh man, what a competitive district 12-5A is, and what a competitive region Region 3 is proving to be. So it'll be an interesting bracket to watch play out.
I'm sure we'll still keep an eye on that.
Oh, sure
maybe
we will.
report some
I know
of those.
we will.
Yeah. So let's move on over to 28-5A volleyball. There's some recognition there for this all-district team here. Coach, why don't you give us the second team all-district for volleyball?
The second team all-district selectees are always very interesting to me, because a lot of times this is where you find the glimpse into up-and-coming teams. And for 28-5A, the second team involved 3 players or included. The second team included 3 players from Floresville: Lidiana Acel, Gabriela Rodriguez, Nicholas Swenson. From Harlandale was Carisma Abundis and Avery Green. McCullum second team selectees were Kylie Dominguez and Anaí Ramirez. From Medina Valley, we have Samantha Estrada and Madison Habe. Southside, Michaela Flores. From Southwest, Addison Bartlett, a freshman; Annalise Castillo, a junior; and Bree Osborne, a sophomore. Southwest Legacy added Davy Castaneda, and from Eagle Pass Wind, Georgina Carrillo. And again, just a reminder on this past volleyball season, Southwest finishing just outside the top 4 of the teams in this district. But I'm going to call them the up and comers right now. It's a long ways away, but I'm going to look at Southwest, and if we get the same type of an alignment, look for them to really contend for one of those top 4 spots next year. That's the second team, Bobby. I think you've got the first team.
Yeah, first team, 28-5A. Floresville, Rebecca Knight, she's a senior. Southside had Ariana Aguilar, she's a sophomore. Southwest had Madison Milligan, she's a junior. Southwest Legacy, Gabriela Ledesma, a senior. Wynn had Yandra Ortega. And Medina Valley, Spencer McCool, who's a senior. And then for Harlandale, we had Julissa Garcia, who's a senior. Serena Hernandez, who's also a senior. Grace Pacheco, who is a senior. For the McCullum Cowboys, Dominic Guerra, senior. Jessa Palmer, a senior for the McCullum Cowboys. Those are the 28-5A first team all-district team.
Yep. And lastly, we have some superlatives, so some players of the year that were recognized for their season-long performance. Our MVP for the 28-5A district was Chanesty Villarreal from Harlandale, who we've talked about on this podcast before and even got a chance to watch play earlier in the season. The outstanding offensive player of the year was Angeli Sanchez from McCullum. The outstanding defensive player of the year was junior Hailey Hurtado from Medina Valley. The outstanding the outstanding setter of the year was sophomore Kayla Reyes from Harlandale, another name that we've said a couple of times on the podcast. And the newcomer of the year goes to freshman Kiara Obregon from Floresville. So very exciting season, Bobby. And, some of these names we might even get to see as we transition to some of the basketball that we'll get to cover this season.
Yeah, congratulations to all those that put in such great effort for their sport, and it was exciting to be able to do a couple of volleyball games this season. So looking forward to some of that. Are we moving on to girls basketball?
We might be.
All right. Let's
do
talk
it.
about tournaments. Coach, tournaments.
The girls basketball, of course, starts 1 week earlier than boys basketball does, so they're a week ahead. They were in tournament play last week. We had tournaments at Harlandale, and we had tournaments at Northside. At the Harlandale tournament, Southside, McCullum, and Harlandale High School were at the Harlandale ISD tournament. Southside went 1-2 and lost 2 in that tournament. They beat West Campus in Del Valle. McCullum was 1-3 in their 4 games in the tournament. Harlandale was the only team of those 3 that made it into the winners bracket. They had more games and they had 6. So their split was 4 wins and 2 losses. The Indians beating John Paul II, Del Rio, Brack, and Alamo Heights. In the final day of that tournament, Harlandale fell to Lanier and Highlands. Bookmark that. It's very early in the season, but remember that 28 5A in the first round of the playoffs is going to face 27 5A, and that would be all of those SAISD schools. So every time that Harlandale or anytime anybody from 28 5A plays an SAISD school like Lanier, Highlands, Brack, and so forth, it's a good thing to keep in mind because they'll be first round opponents. Medina Valley went over to Northside to play in a tournament there. They beat Lee and Warren. They fell to a very tough Brennan team and a very tough Smithson Valley team. And they are back in tournaments this week. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But the boys actually could have started games last Friday. Not all teams did. They started games this past week. Many of the teams started their season this past Tuesday. And they're in tournaments already this week. But before we get to the boys tournaments, Hailey, you've got an update on the girls tourneys.
Yeah, so we have some girls tournaments coming up this weekend. Harlandale and Southside will be participating in a tournament at Southside. Harlandale is going to tip off against Divine and JFK, and Southside, as of right now, where the bracket stands, going to play Lytle. We have Medina Valley and Floresville headed over to Floresville for a tournament this weekend. Floresville, as of right now, has a couple of games lined up against Somerset, Carson City, and Villa. And Medina Valley is going to be playing MacArthur and Clemens. We have Southwest and Southwest Legacy playing at the Southwest ISD tournament this weekend. Southwest is going to play Marshall and Victoria East, and Southwest Legacy going to play Jay and some other opponents that have yet to be announced. And then we have McCullum and Wynn over at the SAISD tournament. Those schedules, as of my research time when I did this earlier in the week, they hadn't been released quite yet, but we'll be able to give you guys an update on those games in our upcoming broadcast. So I know we also have a boys tournament coming up, I believe, this weekend. That would be worth going into a little bit.
Yeah, it'll be at Harlandale ISD. McCullum will be there at Southwest ISD. Southwest and Southwest Legacy will go at it. And at La Jolla, Eagle Pass Win will go at it there with them for the boys basketball. And that does it for basketball. Moving on to the exciting or more exciting part where we kind of give some recognition. It's our shout outs, and they're being brought to you by Motto Mortgage. So Hailey, let's get to it. Get some shout outs.
Yeah, absolutely. We had some great Twitter action, Facebook action this week. We were able to highlight a couple of the athletes. Our first shout out for the week is going to go to Dominique Guerra, who actually committed to the University of Incarnate Word to play softball. So big congratulations to Dominique. She was a 3-sport athlete, played softball, volleyball, and track, 4-year letter in all 3 sports, and also was a regional track qualifier last year in the 4x400 and set the school record. So I have not even accomplished half of those things. So big shout out to Dominique. That's exciting and really cool, honestly, that she's able to stay in the city and play sports and get a good education at an Incarnate Word. So congratulations to Dominique. And then our last shout out for the week goes to Caskia Sandoval, who made the all-tournament team at the Harlandale tournament, girls basketball tournament, a couple of weeks ago. You can see her right here with her little trophy. She scored 105 points over 6 games. I'm not one for math, but it's an average of about 17.5 points a game, which is real big time. So big congratulations to her as well. And like we talked about, I think last podcast, if you have any cool stuff that's happening, make sure you tag us on Twitter because we love to highlight the athletes across all of the district.
Just an extra
105
shout out
points.
on Dom Guetta. We had the pleasure of streaming the Harlandale McCullum game, and what a libero! I mean, those reflexes are unreal. And she's signing to play softball. She's a middle infielder, mostly a shortstop and a pitcher for the McCullum Cowboys. So she still has that senior season ahead of her, and really looking forward to that. Senior softball and track coming up for Dom Guetta. Kasia, of course, just a sophomore, and a lot of basketball ahead for her. Those are the shout outs.
I'm looking forward to seeing Kasia Sandoval play. I mean, 105 points in 6 games. That's pretty impressive. I don't know if you add my middle school and high school career together, if you can add 105 points. You can even throw in my little dribblers. I don't think I have 105 points.
I was a defensive specialist, so I didn't even come close, right? I specialize in defense.
And now we get to some more fun stuff, and we want to talk about the Web Gem. And this is kind of where we show something that we saw on the internet and we'd like to share with all of you. And this week it's coming from Eagle Pass Win. And as you can see, Eagle Pass Win getting the presidential escort with the fire trucks and escorted by Jeeps. And what a great way to leave. And then what a great win they had coming back. So they came into town, beat Highlands, and advanced into the playoffs. So that's them leaving Eagle Pass Win. And of course, as you see, there's the team photo. They are celebrating their win and their presidential return back as they are welcomed by the great folks of Eagle Pass for the Eagle Pass Win Mavericks.
What a great fan base that is, Bobby. I know that we've all enjoyed our trips to Eagle Pass, Coach Villaseñor and his staff and all the staff at Win. I remember a few years back, they were celebrating their first time ever in the playoffs. And here they are, back-to-back by district champions. Eagle Pass, Texas is rocking this week. The Eagle Pass High School Eagles made it to the area round, as did the Win Mavericks. So you can imagine the presidential escorts are pretty busy this week.
Well, you know, Coach, we were actually there when they clinched that playoff spot during the game. So that was a pretty special moment. Yeah, for us to be there and that had happened. So we can't close out without saying thank you to our sponsors and their support. That's Martinez and Associates, Gilly International Group, Motto Mortgage, Superior Tax Service, State Farm with Sonia Flores, and Ray Garza on Par Golf, who was just hanging out with Lee Trevino yesterday at Brackenridge. So want to thank all of them. For our whole entire crew, RC Audio Sports, Hailey Wilson, Coach Robert Villafranca, and myself. Until we stream again, you've been watching RC Audio Sports Vodcast.